Hello, this is part 4 of a series of videos about the fundamental theories and practices that should always be considered when creating a computer-assisted language learning environment. Theories that are based on widely accepted educational theory and practice. Videos are originally recorded to be used in one particular class, but I'm making them available for other people to see as well. So in this video, we're talking about the 7th, 8th, and 9th of the 9 foundational theoretical concepts that we identified via the methodology described in video number 1. So this time they are task-based learning design, gamification, and long-term use via curriculum integration. I've read many intriguing computer-assisted language learning research studies, but they often have significant problems. One notable issue is that students are not always given specific tasks to accomplish as part of their call learning, leaving them uncertain as to how to proceed or how to achieve the most beneficial outcomes. Teachers sometimes give relatively little guidance about their students' use of a call system, but then the students are tested at the end of a certain period of time. This may leave them with questions about how to proceed, concerns about making mistakes, and that might make them procrastinate from using the technology. Call curriculum design using tasks is the basic unit of learning, and that should be designed for focus, clarity, and manageability by students without creating any undesirable complexity that detracts from the actual learning. So in task-based learning design, the tasks, again, are the basic unit of work in the lesson plan, with the tasks addressing the objectives of the lesson or the course in ways that can be measurable. And remember that we've learned about scaffolding. Teachers give plenty of support in early phases as students get used to the technology, but the instructors gradually withdraw that support to encourage the students to be more independent. Task-based learning and task-supported learning are two major cross-discipline approaches to structuring the curriculum of a class around tasks. Task-based learning uses tasks that have not first received explicit instruction from the teacher, so that students discover new knowledge for themselves during the task. In task-supported learning, the instructor provides explicit instruction before assigning the tasks so that the tasks build more elaborate understanding of the ideas initially provided by the teacher. Task-based learning and task-supported learning are sometimes seen as incompatible because they're the result of different theories about teaching and learning, but both approaches may be valid, particularly in learning situations in which performing tasks without prior instruction may be a problem. But your course might include both categories of task design for different activities, maybe using different technology that address different outcome objectives. The specific technique of task-based language learning was developed by scholars named Candlin and Murphy back in 1987. And it resonates with communicative language theory. In task-based learning, regardless of whether instruction comes first or not, the task is the basic unit of work in the language learning instructional design. Task-based learning tasks must produce measurable results that can be evaluated objectively, not only subjectively, and should appear in the lesson plan as multiple intermediary steps, not simply as a final massive deadline. So learning tasks have a specific purpose, they're problem-oriented, they're outcome-driven, they're authentic, they have real-world similarities, real-world activities, encourage meaningful communication. The tasks make language learning content positive and motivating. And so in planning these tasks, we have to remember the principles of constructivism and student-centered active learning, which we talked about in a previous video. Remember this process for educational engineering from video number 2? We need to think about tasks for task-based learning design as soon as we've identified our outcome goals. Choosing instructional activities means choosing learning tasks. Selecting technology by affordances means technology that is most beneficial for the learning tasks we'll use. Teaching the class means presenting the tasks to the students, scaffolding them, and supporting them. And so the standard model of CALL should include tasks as a building block for all lesson plans. And by the red arrows, you see the different places that this task-based learning appears. Many scholars have found success in a process called gamification. That's the next of our major principles in the standard model of CALL. That is, we have students play games that have learning components. It's not impossible that the game may lead to learning of new knowledge, but usually the game is for repetition to strengthen knowledge or build confidence, such as improving use of vocabulary or idioms. Affordances provided by gamification are that students presumably enjoy playing the game if it's well designed, and that motivates them to play more. In playing more times, they repeat a cycle of learning, making it progressively more likely that they can use the learned vocabulary or other knowledge employed in the game when they need to outside the game. Winning the game usually means moving on to the next higher level, but it also equates with mastery of the particular material incorporated in that level of the game. Gameplay can provide students with interesting events and proper English use, thus fostering motivation. It will feel authentic to them, and as long as the game is well designed, as I said, so it does not require a big learning curve, it will be enjoyable for the students. Game-based language learning is often performed with computers or mobile devices, but it can be performed without technology, such as a game played during a classroom activity. But game designers, learning designers, and CALL application designers need to take into consideration how students are likely to use the technology. Several studies in the academic literature have noted discrepancies between how learning designers thought the students would use the games and the way students prefer to use them. For example, one study used a smartphone app designed for brief gameplay at moments such as like when students are waiting for a bus. But they discovered that students preferred to engage in what they considered to be study time at specific times of their scheduling, and the technology was not used as intended in that study. Because gamification has proven to be more suitable for drill and repetition and less for introduction of new knowledge, activities requiring deep engagement and deep thought may not be as suitable for brief smartphone uses. By extension, this suggests that introduction of new knowledge by gamification may be less effective because it does require more sustained attention by students, which is the kind of use that students are used to, shorter but repeated learning tasks that lead to mastery, and that often works best when it comes to the typical kinds of games used for learning. As I said, the main affordance of gamification is that the games can be enjoyable to play and the learning comes naturally, not through basic memorization. But also, as I said, the games must be designed to fit the interests and lifestyles of the students. Different technology game platforms may have different affordances, and remember, choose the activity first and then seek the technology that can best support it. Therefore, while gamification can play an important part in the standard model of CALL, I caution you that the specifics of the gamification must be carefully planned to fit the students' interests and lifestyles. One of the biggest findings of our meta-analysis of CALL research designs is that study findings are usually not incorporated into the learning design for following semesters. This is because CALL research studies are often not about improving instruction, but rather about getting the scholarly publications that university teachers need for promotion and tenure. However, the final element in the standard model of CALL is that learning resources such as the tools and the methods and the technology should be developed with the intention of using them over an extended period of time, not just in one class, not just for a few days or weeks, but also when the class is taught in the future and maybe even in multiple related classes, different versions of the CALL application. Of course, once carefully engineered, the learning design using technology should be evaluated and updated based on how previous offerings of the class went. This is called sustainable design. The word sustainable means that it can continue to be used again and again, not just once. And not just that it could possibly be used again, but that it's the intention that it be used again and again, because it's a careful design and designed as the best way to achieve the needed outcome goals. So this intention needs to be part of the plan from the beginning. This is the way I taught my courses. I would design the course once at the beginning. The second time I taught it, I started from the previous materials and assignments and lecture notes and updated them where needed. There were some courses I taught 15 times, and the way I taught it the first time could still be seen the last time I taught it, although I updated and improved certain parts over time to reflect new knowledge or better ways to handle something. In addition to all of this, the duration of the use of the technology is important. This is particularly true if you're researching CALL. In research, the duration of the study is critical to the accuracy of the findings because a new learning tool or method may initially be more interesting to the students, but their motivation to use it may fade over time. This is called the Hawthorne effect from the researcher who first discovered it years ago, and also the novelty effect. The word novel or novelty describes something that's new or different. When something like technology is new to the students, they'll be more likely to use it, more likely to be interested and engaged. But over time, it will feel more and more ordinary, and they may become less interested and less engaged. As a result, short-term research studies may often be skewed to the positive, and the novelty of the newness may affect how teachers engage with the technology over time. Teachers may be more interested in the short term, but better learning will likely result from longer use, particularly when we have improved the system more and more over time. Scholars named Clark and Chagru said that this novelty factor takes 8 weeks to drop to a level that essentially makes no difference. Here's a model of what motivation from the novelty effect probably looks like over time. When we use the idiom a learning curve, this is probably what it looks like for CALL technology. In the early phases, motivation may be lower as students learn how the system works. Sometimes it takes time to fully understand how the system works. Of course, that can be addressed by good training on the part of the instructor and good scaffolding. The motivation is likely to go up considerably toward the middle of the 8 weeks as the system still feels novel, but after a while, the motivation will start tapering off as using the system becomes more ordinary and normal and not novel anymore. So the first 2 to 3 weeks are probably when scaffolding is most important to reduce the early challenges to motivation and maybe move that peak of motivation a little to the left of the timeline. Scholars named Voot, Peters, and Roblin characterized curriculum integration as sustainable innovation. We've already talked about what sustainable means. Innovation means a new idea or doing something differently from the past. Curriculum, these scholars said, results from innovation and is a social and cultural practice that combines the ideas and efforts of teachers and students, maybe also technology specialists, administrators, other stakeholders, and it evolves over time via cycles of implementation and evaluation. So this perspective of curriculum as a living, growing social entity with continued improvement as opposed to short-term experiments highlights this discrepancy between the one and done academic studies versus long-term curriculum development and integration. Because this long-term plan is important in developing curriculum integration of CALL learning is an important part of the standard model of CALL. Next time will be our final video, and I'll offer some final thoughts on the subject of the standard model of CALL instructional design. We'll talk about how we apply the standard model to learning design, also how we apply it in research design, and I'll have some other final thoughts for you. Students viewing this video for class should think about what we've talked about. Be prepared to have thoughtful things, interesting things to say in class. Your teacher may also give you some specific questions to be prepared to answer. I thank you for watching this video, and I'll be back next time with the final video in this series.